Welcome everyone to the Online Masters in Sustainability Management Information session. I'm Ekrem Taşçıoğlu. I'm the Admissions and Register Officer for the Online Masters programs. Before I start with the information session, I just want to let you know that there's a participation ethic, so you can choose to turn on your camera. But I would like to ask you to turn off your microphone for now. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session with the guest speaker, and there will be another Q&A part at the end of the program content session. So until then, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat, and my colleagues will be checking them until we move on to the Q&A session. And if you want to also, turn on your microphone during the Q&A, please first raise your hand, and then I will give you the floor, and then you can just start chatting with our guest speaker and me. And feel free to be attentive. Feel free to leave messages in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. So let's start. Speakers. So I'm here together with my colleague Irina, the program manager, and Kiran, the international student recruitment manager. And we also have a lovely guest speaker, which I will introduce in a second. But before I introduce him, I just want to show you the agenda shortly. So we first have the session with our guest speaker, Thaddeus, and then we will have a Q&A part after we have our session with the guest speaker. And then we will move on to the online learning experience where Irina will show you a little bit of the demo version of our online platforms. And then I will be presenting the applications and admissions. And then there will be a Q&A sessions about the program content. And finally, this is optional. We also offer eligibility assessments. So we will go into the breakout rooms, me and my colleague Kiran, and we will try to give you a preliminary assessment on spots so that you can see whether you're qualified for this program or not. I am pleased to inform that we have a lovely guest speaker, Thaddeus Anim-Somuah. Thaddeus, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. But could you please first introduce yourself before we move on to our conversation?
Yes, so I'm dialing in today from Amsterdam, but I'm also a Rotterdamer. Uh, uh, I'm working at Philip as a global senior manager for sustainability, where I'm managing our waste and chemicals in particular across our manufacturing sites. And as well as that, I'm also on the board member of the Future Energy Leaders Program at World Energy Council, and I have some other activities around sustainability and sustainable development as well, in terms of supervisory board position for Triodos Investment Management for some of the alternative investment funds, and supervisory board position for World Vision, which is an international development charity, yeah, here in the Netherlands, but operating globally.
Amazing, Thaddeus. Thank you so much once again for participating and for being here. Shall we move on to the questions? So I already know a bit of your background, and I have had an opportunity to go over your CV, but I also want to discuss a bit about your career journey for our participants. So could you tell us a bit about your career journey to where you are now and why you decided to pursue a career in sustainability?
Yeah, so I'm a chemical engineer by background. I did that for my undergraduate and master's, and during my studies, I was already thinking a little bit about sustainability. Sustainability is not a completely new topic. We've known about climate change for a while. I wasn't directly going to work into it because I wanted to, work with my studies and see how I can, you know, have best career, let's say. And so I went in firstly into Procter and Gamble, where I was doing operational excellence. After that, I went to a company called Croda, which is a British specialty company, where first I was doing process engineering in terms of design of new factories, in terms of the translation from the lab to the factory of products, but also later some operational excellence, improving the efficiencies of the factory, and later actually some line management in terms of actually, giving instruction and overseeing the operators and further on, I wanted to get more and more into, let's say, the innovation space and more into sustainability space and the people culture space. So I did do a behavioral safety program that I led within Croda, and then I evolved into a new position where as engineering manager projects, and I got to work on our innovation projects to lead those kind of projects, whether it was digital transformation or whether it was literally building a new factory or redesigning a current factory. And what I was trying to do is put a little bit of sustainability into whatever I was doing as an individual contributor. You can do that, and and it was working. And when Croda had its, let's say, ambition to reduce its emissions by 2020, from 2020 to 2030 by 50%, in line with science-based targets, then I got on board with this and I got the opportunity to lead that project globally and to coach different factories as well, other people in my similar role from different factories on how they can create this in terms of, yeah, doing the energy source changes, but also energy efficiency in terms of using less in the first place, and in some cases completely changing the way we make our products or the products we make to kind of drive that innovation. And I got that taste for sustainability. And once I had that taste of doing it, empowering others to do it, I didn't really want to go back to being the individual contributor, trying to do it as a side dish anymore, trying to fit it in somewhere in my job. So I took the opportunity to yeah, leverage that and move to Philips, where I'm working full time on sustainability, trying to make a bigger impact by enabling others to be sustainable in their journey. So yeah, that's me, and that's how I came about sustainability.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So another question would be that what have been some big career milestones for you? Like, are there any highlights that you can maybe mention for us?
Yeah, so I would say I've mentioned a couple in the story. Getting to
Sure.
lead that global
Yeah.
decarbonization roadmap was the big moment where all of a sudden I got to be an enabler instead of an
Mhm.
individual contributor. And that was a big career milestone. It was mindset shift. It was not just about the technical ideas, but it was also about the cultural change, engaging people, looking at the holistic system. So doing that decarbonization roadmap, we also we brought in internal carbon pricing so that we also make sure these projects get driven, and the business case for these projects is also accounting for what's coming up in future and the ambitions of the company. And making that step to come into Philips was also a big change for me. I went from working, let's say, as a side to working on the sustainability topic, really also on new topics for myself in terms of waste and how chemicals not so new, but in a different way. And of course, I supported on some topics I already know before from in terms of water and energy, but that was a big one. And I think really getting involved in World Energy Council, getting onto the board of Future Energy Leaders was a really big one for me, really, because that was also a change from in World Energy Council. It was, not just looking at the big energy companies, but also the big users of energy, bringing that perspective in and getting to engage in World Energy Congress, where you sit with ministers and leaders in the industry, and you try to work out what should the future look like? How can we overcome the challenges that we see? So yeah, those were the big ones for me so far, but the journey is just starting. So there's
Yeah.
lots more to come.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So as we get close to the end of the year, I just want to know your opinion. What have some things you have seen in sustainability, specifically in 2025, that has been different to previous years? So maybe I can give you a timeline, maybe from like the pandemic from 2022, 2020 till 2025. Are there any things you have seen in sustainability that is like different to previous
Yes.
years?
So what I've seen is there's been initially at least a big change and the requirements from the EU. You will have seen some
Mhm.
of the regulations that have come up. Even some of them have been relaxed and simplified, but still this massive drive for transparency and consistency has put sustainability on the map for all of the large companies. And those large companies, it's a trickle down effect because they buy from smaller companies and when they're looking at their value chain. So that drive for transparency, that's one. It's also what I've seen is it's been a change from ambitions. You can't just say things now to executions, right? So we in the let's say in the 2020s time, it was a time for signing up to science-based targets, saying that we've got an ambition to do this. But now we're getting to the point where people are asking, what have you done? When is it going to be delivered? What is the progress that we see and what's coming next? So they want to know the track record and whether you're delivering and keeping on delivering on your commitments. And so talking about ambition to action. And the third one is that sustainability is now becoming a part of a business. So it needs to be integral value creation. It's not it's not just about having a sustainability department that is doing the work. No, the sustainability department need to engage everyone in the business to do it as part of their jobs to drive value, and that sustainability needs to drive value, right? It's we're not just doing it to make the world a better place. We need to drive that value and that creativity coming from sustainability. So that's what I've seen this year. And I think it's trends that are going to definitely push forwards and continue to the next year as well.
Amazing. I mean, I was going to ask you about the future, but you already mentioned some stuff about the future. But so you also mentioned about some challenges. But can we go back to that? And I just want to know what are the biggest challenges companies face when implementing sustainability strategies from your point of view?
I think there's a few challenges. Well, let's
Mhm.
start with the big one, the elephant in the room, money,
Sure.
right? So before when I would say in the first part, when people were making ambitions, they didn't understand necessarily how much it costs. The translation of an ambition to action and to the discrete, tangible roadmaps is a vague thing. So people maybe they made their ambitions not knowing that, but along the way they discovered, and it became a challenge to commit and continue committing to these ambitions. So you've got to remove those barriers and money. So we've got to create win-win situations. We've got to create the business case. We've got to look holistically to show how sustainability drives value. That can be in, increases in sales. The customer is going to be more attractive to the customers, but it can also be from a risk management point of view that you are, if we're talking about circular economy, we can be by using less materials, we can be reducing our dependencies on certain materials and our supply chain business continuity risks. And we can also be reducing costs. Use less energy, you have less costs. So there's all of these different factors that we've got to bring in around the money, which is a big one. The next one is actually the big picture, really, the holistic view, because from sustainability departments, traditionally, we've been just focusing only on our sustainability bit, and there's and now we're being asked actually we need to put it in the whole landscape of the company, but also in terms of the market, try and make alliances, partnerships. We're all in this together. It's it's a lot to ask. It's a new discovery and it's evolving, but you've got this dance where nobody quite wants to be too far ahead, and some things are too big to tackle on your own. If you're talking about supply chain data, we need to tackle this not just as one company, but as several companies together and create systems where we can efficiently get that information from the supply chain or change have that influence on the supply chain that they change to become more sustainable. So this new holistic systems thinking, alliance building, got to think of the whole business, but also the market and all of how we're gonna and partnerships. Yeah, it's quite a lot. It's a big challenge, but it's an opportunity to have more impact.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I know that you're a senior sustainability manager at Philips. And for people who wants to also become a sustainability manager, could you maybe tell us what are some skills needed to be a good sustainability manager? Maybe both hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah. So let me start with the hard skills. So it's not that the soft skills are not important, but the hard skills you will also need it because it's actually, believe it or not, it's not a fluffy subject anymore, sustainability. People are gonna ask you to really do the data analysis. You need to be able to grind into what data do we need to start with, how are we going to get it, and once we got it, what does it mean? What actions do we want to drive from here? So that's the one, and that data analysis is linked in with all sorts of problem solving skills. That's a generic skill, hard skill. Now the next one, a hard skill that we're talking about, is really understanding a sustainability topic or potentially more of a topic. So where it can that can be circular economy, that can be talking about natural capital, which is an evolving topic. It's a growing topic now. Actually, if you're talking about trend for 2026, I didn't say it, but that's one of the things I haven't seen yet in 2025, but it's coming big. So if you can go beyond carbon accounting, but try and understand, hey, how do all these things interact with our nature and ecosystem? Understand also how the regulatory systems interact with the business. This is a key hard skill that you will be needing. In terms of the soft skills, I would say you need to like engaging people. You need to have thick skin because people are going to say no sometimes. They're not going to get it sometimes. You're going to have some patience to keep going with them sometimes. Got to be a bit creative because, you know, it is, you know, it's a changing world and there are opportunities, but, you have to make them. You have to see the opportunities and listen to your stakeholders and pick up on, hey, this is where we have a connection and we can drive a win-win scenario together. And I think most of all, you kind of just need to have this kind of continuous learning. You need to just look in yourself. It's not that you need to like reading. You can learn also from podcasts or other stuff, but you need in this evolving landscape, you need to have this continuous learning. You can't just learn how to do an LCA and it's good. It's not like that because different regulations are moving, competitors are moving in different spaces. There's your company will be having its own innovations moving. Yeah, there's you keep learning, keep evolving, embrace the digital tools as well to help you, and that's what I would say.
Okay, so to keep learning, would you suggest to people like studying or gaining certain qualifications, maybe as a way to support a career transition into sustainability? Because I also assume that there are some people who might be working in a completely different field and maybe wants to transition into sustainability. And I also want to get some insight from you. Like, would you suggest them to study or gain a certain qualifications? And what will be their starting point to move into the sustainability field, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I think you need to understand what is sustainability. So before you necessarily commit to a master's course or something, I would say do your own, research in terms of, okay, you've heard of the buzzwords, but you connect with some people who have this experience of sustainability, have this knowledge of sustainability to understand, is this something that I'm gonna enjoy to do? Um, Once you've understood that, because it's not an easy road, once you've understood that, then you can look at, okay, there's very different aspects of sustainability. When we're talking about environmental sustainability, that's completely kind of removed from human rights, international development. You can almost see them loose from each other, but you also look for yourself, okay, which are the subtopics of sustainability where I want to go deeper into, and how can I understand how would drive the value for companies or organizations or wherever you want to play in that field. And then I think, yeah, getting the study, getting the qualification, getting the understanding enables you to be able to go into the role and to coach others. Because in a sustainability manager role, you are is essentially the internal expert. So you have the knowledge. So progress with that specialization and learn about it, and then you can really become the knowledge owner and the person who's doing the knowledge transfer and engaging others on the side.
Okay, so in your view, you already briefly mentioned, but I also want to highlight it once again. What real role do academic programs such as an online master's in sustainability management play in becoming a sustainability manager, but also just to move into the sustainability fields as a person?
Yeah, I think they play a big program, a big role in shaping and forming our next generation of sustainability leaders, because we're giving them the skills which they're gonna go and do train the trainer. Sometimes they're not only gonna enable others, but sometimes in my role, actually, I'm coaching a lot of sustainability leads on the factories. Those sustainability leads on the factories are often going out and then, engaging other people. And sometimes I'm doing it with them, but this is the kind of situation. So you're giving them specific technical expertise, but you're also giving them this community of people who are in the same interest by default because they applied to this course, right? Where they can rely on when it's getting tough. They can go go back to their classmate and say, "Hi, how did you do this?" You know, and ultimately you're giving them the opportunities as well to practice in, let's say, during the course in a no lose environment. Let's say some of the soft skills that are going to be needed when you get into business, because once you get into the business role, yeah, when you don't succeed to engage that stakeholder, then you will be making less impact. And yeah, so that is a definite, you know, then your results are lower. So first, building up the confidence, the skill before you go out. That is, I think, the role that they have, and I think another role that they have is keeping people up to date. Like I said, it's a very dynamically changing um, uh, market situation. More and more is being asked of um, sustainability managers in terms of different fields of expertise and how they're supposed to form alliances. And this is a way that we can keep people up to date with the skills that they need and set them up for the future.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for this lovely conversations. Now we can maybe move on to the Q&A. But before that, maybe do you have any questions for me, or do you have any final remarks for our potential candidates before we move into the Q&A part of the session?
Yeah, I think just be bold, follow your dreams. If you want, you find out what you want, and if you want to do it, go for it. I think maybe in my case, I took a bit longer to make the switch to sustainability because I was just doing a little bit of it in my work, and but I think it's a beautiful profession where you can, you can make a lot of impact, and you can make money at the same time, and so it's good,
Yeah.
so
Okay, thank you. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I will be reading that and then we can discuss. Um, let's see.
yeah, so this is a really great question, and I think this is also something that the course also should address, but I can give some of my insights and a little bit from experience in the corporate world, but also from what I'm doing in World Energy Council, mainly from that, where we're bringing together governments and business and startups actually as well, right? As and with young people as well. So the key is we've got a chicken and an egg scenario where the government says it's up for the market to decide, the customer, if the customer all wants sustainable, all the companies will do sustainable and the companies should do it. But the real scenario is there's never been a true free market. There's some industries, when we're talking about agriculture, for instance, because we believe it's so important for everybody within our country to have affordable access to food, heavily subsidized. Other industries, we set the rules, we decide what's allowed and not allowed, and we've got this thing which you might have heard of, externalities. So companies are polluting and they don't pay necessarily for the pollution. That's an externality. Society pays for that pollution. Now, if a government decides they're going to pay for that pollution, and they've got an environmental profit and loss balance, just like they have a financial profit and loss balance, then all of a sudden the roles will change. So government has that role to change. But at the same time, you don't need to wait for the government as a company. There's a clear strategic advantage in terms of managing risk. If you believe the government's going to change, you can get ahead of it. You can do it in a longer time period. There's also, the reputation and the customers you can gain by doing sustainability, and by being the leader, you can not only be more sustainable, but you can train your suppliers, your customers, everybody else, and really have that name. So uh, the companies are also, if you lead as a company, all the companies look at each other. So if you lead and people see you leading and you're bragging about how much you're leading, your competitor is going to start following because they can never be too far behind. So in that way, we need to come out of the chicken and the egg waiting dance and get into a virtuous circle, a flywheel they call it, where because of one person we're chasing and we're leading each other and we're going, and really this long-term vision is the key here, both from government and from companies. Long-term vision, because what right now sustainability is in a little bit of a dip. A few years ago it was in a really big up, but in the long term we all know it's only got to go up. It's only got to be more. We're not meeting our ambitions for Paris Climate Agreement, and we're seeing already the effects, and we need to do more. Yeah, so I would say it, the first strategy that works for me really is listening, understanding, okay, what are the barriers here and how do the system work? And in some cases, some cultures, maybe it can be a specific case, the way to get the thing done might be hierarchical. So you realize that the key is you need to convince someone who's very high in the chain to just say to the people, just do it. Now, the person who's very high in the chain might be hierarchical, might not respect you. because of your level, and they've got a lot of ambitions and pressure to face. So then what you can do is you can prepare. There's also more senior people within sustainability. You can prepare the more senior people in sustainability and give them the arguments and the engagement and give them the details of what needs to be done and how it can be done to reach the target. And they can go and engage those people on your behalf and get it done. That can be a strategy. In another case, it can be a case that people respond a little bit to competition, a little bit to fun. You can try and make it into you can try and engage them in this kind of, yeah, you know, the same way you play with your friends or as when you were children, you know, think of that way. And in other cases, it's just the case of let's get our hands dirty together and if you're coming to sustainability telling people this is how you do and this and now do it, it's and they've got so many things to do, it can be overwhelming. It doesn't feel like it when you say, okay, let's go together, you know, hand in hand, and if it doesn't work out, that's on me. That way, that teamwork. So some people respond to it a lot, and it can also help remove the barriers within the organization. So I think within whatever specific situation, you've got to understand not one rule applies, but you need to have the ability to see what's the issue here. Do they not believe in sustainability, or do they believe in it, for instance, but not have the time, support, or do they, you know, they do have the time, but they don't know how to do it? You know, this that figure out case by case basis how you can go. Yeah, so what I would say to this is that we don't work in a vacuum. So everybody, when they come to work, they're the same person as when before they came to work. They have those values from before they came to work. So if they believed in sustainability before they got to work, but the company doesn't necessarily care about sustainability or they don't have the time to do sustainability, you've already got a hook. You know, maybe they didn't believe, but someone else in the proximity really is passionate about it, and they're neutral. You know, you've got a hook when you're talking to them about long-term vision, about you know, what's the future for the children and grandchildren. You've got a hook, right? So that's where you need to find the different ways to engage people, speak to their personal values, and not necessarily only to the corporate branding. Because it's you know, people are savvy, but they, you know, they want to feel the connection with you, and you need to help other people in your sustainability manager role. Like I said, train the trainer often, help other people how they can make that connection and engage with people. And I really is translating it into what do I need to do in my everyday work. Sometimes you really just, okay, make it as simple as possible. What does it mean for me, you know, and how do I make a change, right? If I were to do this, what does it matter, you know? And I think once you can do that, you can really make through small things, you know, raising the right questions in the right time with the right people, then you can actually make a big change because it's the power of all of the employees together that you get to such a big change as a company.
Well, thank you so much. If there are no more questions, I would like to thank Thaddeus for joining and for this conversation. It was really nice to see you again and talk to you again. Yes, so we will be moving on to the program content, but I just want to say, yeah, thank you so much for coming here today. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Ekram. Anytime.
Yes. Yes. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.